for all of you guys that have seen all these videos on TikTok or Instagram or all these debates on Twitter, well, X, about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, or It Ends With Us in general, but are still quite lost about what is going on exactly, well, today is your lucky day because I've done the research and also I went into a lot of rabbit holes and I am bringing all the information that I have and what my opinion is about the drama with It Ends With Us. So tune in, get your earphones on, whatever you want, and let's discuss. Hello everyone, this is Darkest Hour Reads and today we are going to talk about all the drama going on with Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni and It Ends With Us in general. Obviously, we will discuss the book first and then we will go through all the analyses and everything that I've been looking around, and then we can have a discussion. Obviously, if you guys have any extra information that I haven't mentioned, please obviously put it in the comments or just message me on my social media that you can find over here. But yeah, let's discuss because there is a lot to discuss right now. So me, as many of you, I was also quite lost about what was going on that side of the big community, right? Because, well, first of all, because It Ends With Us is a fiction romance type of book, and I am not as into that genre as others, like classics, for example, or horror or gothic. So I was quite lost about what was going on exactly, right? And also at the same time, I am an early Gen Z, so obviously I held Blake Lively in high regards, just not only because of her being in Gossip Girl, which is a series that I really like, but also at the same time because I really liked the relationship that she has with Ryan Reynolds and the way that she portrays herself into media. I think it was really, really smart, right? But after doing all this research, before doing the research, I was just confused about what was going on. So I obviously decided to start doing the research myself and just see what is actually going on, right? And to be quite frank, there are some things that are just straight up crazy over here, right? The first thing that I did was obviously read the book, or the vast majority of the book, because I'll just talk about this later. But yeah, I read the book. I also read the interviews and watched the interviews from Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Colleen Hoover herself as well, the writer of the book, just to find more or less what is the tone between all the actors or all the producers and the author herself as well. And yeah, the information, some things are not adding up and are just quite crazy, if I say so myself. So let's start with the analysis of the book. It's just going to be around like 5 minutes maximum, and then we can discuss the whole situation, right? Because I think the context of the book is really important in this case. So let's start. The first thing is talking about It Ends With Us, the book, not the film. I haven't seen the film personally, but I think the book in this context is more important than the film, at least at first, right? So for those who don't know, or for those who haven't read the book, as I didn't beforehand, It Ends With Us is a book created by Colleen Hoover, who is the author, obviously, and the story is about a romance. Well, it's classified as romance, which I think that is the first mistake, but we'll discuss this later. It's a romance novel about Lily, who is the main character, who moves to Boston after graduating just to accomplish her dream of opening a flower shop. Also, Leo pause, but the main character is called Lily Blossom Bloom. Like, let's just sing this for a moment. Like, this is giving me very Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and like even the character is like, oh yeah, my name is stupid. Yeah, because it is. Like, Colleen Hoover, please, that was really corny, but I'll let it slide. So yeah, Lily Blossom Bloom, her dream is to open a flower shop. So she moves to Boston. Also, at the same time, she moves to escape the horrible relationship that she has with her father, because her father is really abusive towards her mom, and she doesn't want to be in that space, right? And she, also at the same time, she resents her mother because she's still in that relationship and she doesn't dare to leave him, right? So the book starts with Lily living in Boston, but just having come back from her hometown because it was her father's funeral. And basically, she meets Ryle, who is the love interest. I would say love interest, but yeah, when we move forward, I wouldn't say love interest because I don't think he should be considered a love interest. But anyways, yeah, she meets Ryle, who is a neurosurgeon who is doing his last year of residency, and basically they meet in a rooftop, and they both practically like overshare. But the first scene that we have of Ryle is just him kicking a chair and just like trying to destroy it but not being able to, right? And then the story moves forward where like we see that there's a deep attraction between both of them, so between Lily and Ryo, and how they both try to be away from each other because they want different things. So obviously Ryo wants a casual affair, whereas Lily wants to find the one true love, right? And they try to stay away from each other, but they end up getting together. They obviously have relationship. They have relations, sexual relations, obviously, and yeah, just the big goes by with this relationship growing, getting more serious, but also at the same time, Ryle becomes abusive towards Lily, and that is something that at first, even though Lily notices that this is abusive and this is not okay, she just basically gives excuses towards this behavior. And obviously Ryle seems like he's very apologetic about everything he does, so obviously she forgives him, and the abuse gets worse and worse. And also there's another character that comes into play, which is Atlas, who is Lily's first love, right? So that it's like there's a love triangle, I would say, like that. So yeah, there's a lot of messiness, a lot of abuse, really, really hard topics. And yeah, that's the main story, right? I don't want to give any spoilers if someone wants to read it, but yeah, that's the main gist of the story. I have to be 100% honest with you guys. This book was a huge, huge no for me. Obviously, I might be biased just because I am not really used to read these kind of romance, in the sense of like I tend to read either historical romance, for example, or gothic horror romance, which is creme de la creme. Please, like I need more recommendations if you guys have. But yeah, I am not used to read fiction, normal fiction romance, and which obviously might have made me biased towards the book. But the book was just so bad. Like, I am so, so sorry if that's your favorite book. And obviously, you're entitled to your opinion. And if you think it's the greatest book ever, good for you. I'm happy that you enjoyed and that you love reading this book. But this book was bad. Like, 1 star out of 5 minimum. Well, maximum, I would say 0 out of 5. Well, 0 out of 5 is too much, but I would say 1.5 out of 5. First of all, it was extremely, extremely cringy. Obviously, with fiction and with romance, sometimes we have some cringe, and I myself usually cringe quite easily, so that could also be related to that. But you cannot tell me that this person is like, what, that Colleen Hoover thought it was a great idea to start the romance like in page 12. So the book starts with page 4, right? Page 4. In page 12, you find Ryle, the main character, wants to fuck Lily and that they want to fuck each other. Like, you cannot tell me that in 8 pages you know that you want to do the deed with someone. That is just straight up crazy, right? Like, I think that is just rushing it. Obviously, I love angst, don't get me wrong, but I think at this point it's just PWP. You know what I mean? Um, Also, at the same time, I really, really disliked the fact that the first image that you have of Ryle is already being abusive, right? Like, we see in page 6 that he can't just control his anger, and he's just releasing it and like throwing chairs and like trying to like break a chair, which first of all he doesn't even break, which is even worse. Like, it just gives me the ick. And he's just like, yeah, it was just bad, it was just terrible. And like, the fact of how yeah, they start like this romantic relationship with Ryo, and then they just immediately straight after go into Adler's, and like there's a mix between the two, and like she doesn't understand what she wants to do, and there's a confusion, and it's just very not, it's not confusing because you understand what is going on, right? But it just doesn't make sense. And like, this is something that, as a psychologist, it just makes me really angry. And I don't think it's a good like, this book is a good representation of what it's trying to convey, which is DV, obviously domestic violence, and abuse, which is like, you see from the start that Ryo is abusive, right? And also at the same time, you see that he doesn't respect her boundaries, and that he just says whatever he wants, and he's just going to treat her badly, right? Like, he doesn't have her number, he doesn't ask for her number, he's trying to break chairs, obviously he's using drugs, which recreationally, if you want to do it, that's perfectly fine, obviously, but that is also a little bit of a sign, I'm not gonna lie. And also at the same time, he's obsessed with wanting to have sex with her, which I think that's the biggest red flag. But it seems like she doesn't realize, or like, she's like, oh yeah, okay, you want to have sex. Like, the page 71 where he is like begging for her to like let him have sex with her, and she's like, oh, I'm sweaty, I don't know. And then he's like, please, please, please. And she's like, cool, let me just shower. Like, the way she normalized that was something that was okay, and like, everyone's like, oh, this is so hot, this is so hot. Like, I think that was crazy, and I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that was crazy. That was like, after reading that page, I was like, I had to close the book and had to go for a walk and touch some grass, because I was like, this is just crazy. I can't just believe that this happened and that this book got published. Also, something that I think has to be mentioned is the fact that we talk about how Ryo is abusive, or like the way he abuses Lily. But do you know what's the thing though? Like, as a psychologist, as a clinical psychologist, right, I had my fair share of experiences with abuse, right? I've seen victims of domestic violence. I've seen people who are in these relationships, in these toxic and abusive relationships. I have even seen abuses, right? Like, I've seen it all. I've seen all the types, all the different ways of people being abusive. Also, at the same time, I haven't personally been in an abusive relationship, but I have someone in the family who was abusive towards the whole family itself, and I had to live with that person, right? So I know how abuse looks, and I know how it feels as well, like firsthand as well. I've received abuse from this person before. Well, I did in the past, because this person is not with us anymore. But I know how abuse looks, and this is not how it looks. I'm so sorry, but I had to say it. Obviously, we have to say, well, I have to say that the book is like 300 pages, or like almost 400 pages long. So it's not that big. And obviously, I assume that there's a lot that they cut when they first edited the book. But the way Ryo just starts with physical abuse straight away is something that's not how it happens, right? For those who don't know, there is a cycle of abuse within these relationships, even friendship relationships, or like emotional, romantic relationships, all of them, if they are abusive, they have the same cycle, right? So for people who don't know, also, if you are in this kind of relationships or you think that this resonates with you, obviously get help. But how it works is that you have the honeymoon phase where obviously everything is perfect. The person is trying their best. They are doing everything. There's a lot of love bombing. So they invite you to dates. They bring you flowers. They care about you. They are extremely caring, and you feel like all this love, like you feel all the love and you feel amazing, you feel in cloud nine because they are being great towards you, right? And then it starts, like it slowly, the love slowly starts to disappear, which makes you think, oh, they are not as interested in me as they are, so they just withdraw all the love that they have given you in order for you to keep wanting more, right? And then there is a conflict. They usually ask, or they usually are the ones that start the conflict, right? Or for example, they have drunk a little bit too much, or they see you in on the phone, or dinner is not ready, or something is happening, right? There's a conflict that needs to be resolved, or like that there's a conflict going on between you two. It can be as small as uh, you still have your makeup on, or it can be as small as instead of coming home at 7 p.m., you came at like 7:10, right? So there's a conflict they create, or naturally there's a conflict over there, and there's an explosion, right? So there's insulting, there is obviously physical abuse, or um, silent treatment. There's all the types of abuse, right? And then afterwards they feel terrible. Obviously you feel even worse, but they show guilt, right? They show that they didn't mean to do that, or that it's just something that they felt in the heat of the moment, and they just completely, absolutely regret everything they've done. So then they go back to the honeymoon phase, which is like trying to make up for these bad behavior or this mistake that they've done, right? So that's the cycle that we call the cycle of abuse. That's something that many abusive partners do, or even family, for example, abusive family does that as well. So anyone that is the abuser into the relationship, into the toxic relationship, usually does this cycle. It is quite uncommon just to go directly to the abuse, just because if someone, and that's something that I see in the book, right? Like some Ryle just goes directly into the physical abuse, into the slap, right? Which is usually not common at all, right? Because if you think about it, right, imagine you're in a relationship for like 2-3 months, or like even a month and a half, right? And there's the tiniest conflict, like yeah, he has a pan and then he just like leaves there, like just drops it, right? And then Lily laughs. The fact that he just directly slapped her, that is just, that scene or that behavior is so disproportionate, and it's just so out of the blue, that I would say that if I was Lily, for example, and I just loved and got slapped out of nowhere, I would literally leave. I would just run, right? Because usually with this cycle, the abuse that they do is very premeditated, right? It's something that it has to be like, it has to grow over time. So it usually starts with comments like, oh, I don't like what you're wearing tonight when you are with your, like, you going out with your girls makes me insecure or makes me jealous because other men can see you, so therefore please change, right? Like they are like, they usually start with Leo comments, then they start with usually insults like, oh, you're an idiot because you have forgotten to make dinner to me or for me, right? Or and then we get into the physical abuse. But like I would say the physical and sexual abuse are the highest levels of abuse. Obviously all abuse is wrong. Even if someone is just making little comments, you should never tolerate it. But I would say that these are the strongest and the most clear behaviors of abuse. So they usually start low and they just start escalating. That's why I think um, Ryle's behavior is just so out of the blue, and just it just doesn't make sense in like the abuse um, literature, or in the way, like the abusive behavior that you could see in an abusive relationship or in a toxic relationship like Ryle and Lily's. That's why I think this book is not a good representation of what abuse is per se, right? Obviously, I could be wrong. And if that's what Colleen Hoover has decided to write just directly, um, and if that's something that she has seen in the past with, obviously, her mom and her father, that is completely fair enough. But I would just say that that is not what a normal case looks like. Now, you might ask yourself, what does this have in common? Or like, why is this related to the film or to the drama within Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni? Okay, so starting off, Justin Baldoni got the rights of the book in 2019 just to make a movie, right? So Justin Baldoni is the director and the main producer of It Ends With Us, the film, and he also plays the character of Ryle in the film. Whereas Blake Lively is, I think she's considered an executive producer, and she also plays the part of Lily. So obviously, they are the two main characters. They are essential to the film itself. And as we know, Blake Lively is married to Ryan Reynolds, who also recently released a film which is Deadpool and Wolverine, if I am not mistaken. I think that's the title. I could be slightly wrong, but yeah, it's Deadpool #3, the third film, which it will be important in the near future. So just hold on to these. Just to let you know, guys, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are married, but Ryan Reynolds here plays a secondary role, which I also think is a little bit important to mention as well. But yeah, I will tell you guys later. But starting with Justin Baldoni, so obviously, even though he's very famous, I would say that the main beats that he's made, or like the most important part of his role over here in It Ends With Us, the film, is the fact that he's the director and he's the one that makes the executive decisions, right? So if you see all the interviews that he has made, all the PR press, for example, all the tours, all the releases, he has put a lot of effort into mentioning that this is a story of abuse, right? That it's not a romance, it's a story of how a woman has gets into this relationship and just escapes because, well, basically because of her finding the courage to leave, and also at the same time her being in the position where she has to leave for others, right? You can see, yeah, I would just put it on the screen over here. That's the main part, or like that's the main point that he makes, right?
You tackle domestic violence in a way that a lot of people don't expect. I think you think of a typical abuser, or you think of a typical victim, but this is nuancy. And sometimes by the time you get to the end of it, you really don't know how you feel.
Yeah, well, I think that's the challenge, right? Because what is a typical abuser or a typical victim? I think that there is no typical anything. I think that unhealthy relationships are on a spectrum, and this was a really important one. So, we partnered with our dear friends at No More. It was the only way that I could direct this movie is if I had a group of women specifically behind me who are specialists in this space. And from the very beginning, we worked very hard to create a very truthful and honest story that could reflect the reality of what millions and millions of people go through every day.
And I think
Whereas Blake Lively, the main point that she makes about this film is Barbie type kind of film, which is, oh, get your friends, put on florals, and come and see the film and just have a nice time. And you can see it over here in this video. Well, in the video that I'm gonna put afterwards, she's just basically showing that this film is something great. It's like a nice rom-com that you can see, that you could see like on a summer night, right? It's not a story of abuse. And like you can see it over here.
So excited. I'm just so honored to be here celebrating this movie that has meant so much to me for so long. I've lived with this character for a year and a half, and I don't just mean that Lily, I mean every character in this. You know, the work that I've done off camera, it means even more to me than the one that I did on, because it was just such a, it was a really beautiful experience. And what Colleen Hoover gave us with this book and what she gave us in the filmmaking process has really been a gift. Well, I think it captures every color of the human experience. It's completely messy. And normally when you have something that has levity and light and love and joy, you don't also have the depths of pain and trauma and sadness that this film has. Or if you have that, if you have the pain and trauma and sadness as a female, as an actress, you don't often get the opportunity to also play the levity and the light and the joy. And that's what life is. It's highs and lows, and it's messy, and I think that that captures the human experience so well. And it's not just Lily, it's every character around her. It's so multifaceted that you really understand why she loves who she loves, and why she feels how she feels. You're feeling the movie not just watching her, but as her, with her. So her victories are yours and her pain is yours, and so it's very potent. Lily Bloom is a woman who is at a turning point in her life where all of her dreams are coming true. Her dream to open her first shop, her business, a flower shop, she's falling in love, meeting a new best friend. Something from her past is sort of coming up, and she's just finding herself at a crossroads of beautiful things and painful things, and then, you know, something happens which sort of turns it all on its head.
So in this sense, I think this is the main part of the conflict, right? Which is Justin Baldoni. It's literally two sides. Justin Baldoni being the person that defends this story and saying like, this is not a romance, this is a survivor's experience with abuse. Whereas the other side, we have Blake Lively and even Colleen Hoover, who is the author of the book. Let me remind you guys, who are on the side of, oh, this is just a twisted romance. This is a love triangle between two very hot guys and the main character of the book, Lily, right? Like, oh, just put on your florals, put on like your flower t-shirts or like your dresses, your summer dresses, and just go have fun with your girls. Which I think it's crazy, especially coming from the author. Like, I've seen interviews from Colleen Hoover from ages ago, right? And like she always puts so much attention towards her mentioning that this is a story of abuse, that this is something that like she's highly influenced by, well, she was very highly influenced by her mom, who was also in an abusive relationship and had to escape her dad, right? And like how she considers her mom a hero, and rightfully so, because escaping abuse is not easy. And she always gets so emotional about how proud she is of her mom, right? And how she resents and has all these feelings that Lily has about her father, right? And I just think it's crazy how like an author that has written a story that is based on her mom's story of abuse, and you defend Blake Lively, who is saying that this is a rom-com and that you should be getting floral dresses and have some fun time with your girls. Like, are you joking? You're just straight up disrespecting your mother and like your mother's experience with abuse, and you're also disrespecting all these women that have like either used this book or like this film as a wake-up call to leave their abusive partners, for example, or those women that didn't even know that they were in abusive relationships and just normalized all the behaviors that the partners do towards them, and just you just consider it a twisted romance or like a love triangle. That is just so plain disrespectful. I think that's one of the worst things that you could do to your fans, and I'm so sorry, but I think this should be cancelable. Apart from Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover and the rest of the cast being on the side, right? On the side of, oh, this is just a romance story or like a love triangle, right? We also have the fact that even though Justin Baldoni got the rights of the book in the sense of actually making the film, producing the film, directing the film. Blake Lively has also stated many, many times how she can't act if she doesn't put her input, right? Or if she doesn't, if she is not executive producer as well, right? Which, first of all, I think is kind of crazy because your job is being an actress. So the fact that you're saying that you need to put your input as a producer in order to make sure that you fit into the role of this character, it's just very telling that you're not a great actor. Like, obviously being an actor takes a lot, and there are some, probably there will be some characters that you will struggle to feed into more as an actor just because of personality or because of different behaviors, especially with villains, right? But the fact that you say like that Blake Lively allegedly says that she needs to be a producer and just needs to change things up in order to feed herself more as a person into this character. I just think you're telling on yourself, girl. And also at the same time, we talked about Ryan Reynolds, right? So obviously we know that Ryan Reynolds is also a really famous actor, more known for Deadpool, and he's also a producer and director, just as Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni. But apparently, even though Ryan Reynolds, even though he is not uh, in it ends with us the film at all, like he's not involved at all, he's not even a character, he doesn't even appear, right? Apparently he has also been involved in the producing, which I think is also quite crazy, taking into account that not only he's busy with Deadpool, with his own film, but also at the same time it's like you are only related to this film because your wife is in it, right? And like you don't even have the rights to produce the film, but you still want to make decisions into the production and into the direction of this film who you are not even involved with. So in this sense, I also think it's very, very disrespectful of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, especially just because like the fact that not only you want to change all the producing or you want to change the directing, but also at the same time you allow your husband or you force your husband to no you force the director to change things according to what your husband says or what he thinks is best, disregarding everything that the director says. It's just so blatantly disrespectful, and I think it's just very telling on A, how rude you are, B, how you don't even take any seriousness into other people's art and other people's perspective, and C, sorry, you just show yourself that you're not a great actor because you need to change things up in order to feed yourself better into the role. And also the fact that like there's just so many things going on. Okay, like this is just crazy. Also the fact that Blake Lively used all the press releases and like all the marketing strategies. Well, there's so many, like there's so much going on. But yeah, she used a lot of press releases in order to advertise her own new hair care products, taking into account that she looks like this 90% of the time in the film. So girl, I think you have bigger fish to fry, and it's just to take care of your hair first. But yeah, she's also, instead of talking about the domestic violence and about the film itself, she is also advertising her new hair care brand, which I also think is nuts. So yeah, I think that's more or less what was going on or what is going on with the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively drama. Personally, I think Blake Lively is incredibly disrespectful, and I think for some interviews that I've seen that are not even related to the film at all, she's also very rude to not only people that are not famous, but also people that are famous themselves as well, which obviously could just be a joke. But if you don't know people, you shouldn't be joking around, especially with like very serious topics. And also at the same time, if you are not a director, you can give your input as a producer or like as an executive producer, but at the end of the day, the person who has the final say is the director. You are just an actress. You are just someone that is paid to be in the film, not to actually change the film for your own comfort. And also at the same time, if you can't really act without changing things up, without making things more comfortable for you, maybe you should go back to acting school, because you're just showing yourself that you're not a good actor slash actress. And obviously you can give your input, but at the end of the day, the director is the one that has the main power of decision. And also, if you are talking or like doing a film or doing any sort of art relating to very sensitive topics like domestic violence, you should shut up about your own brand, your own hair care brand. And you should also stop talking about romance and about, oh, let's do it like this, let's do this film, or like let's do this environment like Barbie but with florals, and actually talk about the real problems that some women face, or like people in general face, because men can also face domestic violence as well. So instead of talking about, oh, let's go grab our friends and let's put on our florals and let's just have a great girl time, let's talk about what really matters, and it is making sure that people are safe, or talking about very real issues that many women face. That's something that I would start with. And yeah, I think you have bigger fish to fry than talking about your hair care brand. That is all for today. Obviously, this was a very serious topic, very dramatic, very full of weird things that are happening around, especially with some of the actors. I hope you like this video. Obviously, everything that I'm saying here right now is allegedly. This is my opinion. Obviously, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Justin Baldoni is just a horrible person. He's a dictator as a director, but this is the information that we have as of now. This is what I have found, and I have done my research. I can tell you, like, I've spent hours in these, right? But yeah, all of these again is allegedly. If you have any extra information, or if there's anything that you think I've missed, please make sure that you put it in the comments. If you want to have any discussions, here are my socials again. And thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Okay, see you later, guys. Thank you.